Україні! Слава нації! Україна! 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 Героям України тричі! Now once again, my friends, I do prefer to do our speeches here, near the giants of this country's history. Viscount Slim, Viscount Alen. These individuals are people who fought in the past and who led this country to victory and who led the free world to victory over entities like Nazi Germany and of course with the Cold War over entities like the Soviet Union. Of course, Slim and Alen were not at war with the Soviet Union, in case somebody starts questioning my history. But I digress, my friends. What matters is that they fought against authoritarianism. They fought against the enslaved world that back then was stirring, back then wanted to expand to the rest of the world. And nowadays, once again, the enslaved world is stirring again. And they are planning to spread their influence all over the world. Countries like Ayatollah Iran, like Russia, like North Korea, and yes, my friends, also like China, are trying to expand their influence all over the world and use misinformation to make people ignorant of what is truly going on right now. Now they are taking a book straight out, they're taking a page, straight out of the Soviet book. But we need to know that, you know, we should not do the same as the evil Nazis did in the past, as they burned books and they forbade people from reading them. No, we should look into the past. We should look into the ideology of our enemies also. We should look into it so that we can understand how to fight against that. How to fight against the Russian terrorist regime. How to fight against the Ayatollah regime in Iran. How to fight against North Korea and many other entities. And there are many proxies. We need to know how they behave. As Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, know yourself, know your enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. I'm sure these gentlemen here knew about that. And that's exactly why they were successful. Now nowadays, we need to know who our enemy is, first and foremost. That's why everybody needs to know that the Russian terrorist regime is the enemy, not only of Ukraine, but of the whole free world. They have declared themselves as that enemy. And anybody who wants to know that can easily research this information. Time in and time out, they always do the same thing. They always repeat the same thing over and over again. They say that they are against the free world. They're against democracy. You know, they even use the word demokratia in Russian, and they misshape it. They say demokratia, which is an agglomeration of the word democracy and the word poop. Now this is what Russians see democracy as. This is what they look at the West and they see weakness. They see entities that will not react, that they can push against and never be pushed back. But you need to prove them wrong. And now, the first step, one of the first steps to prove them wrong has been finally accomplished. For that I wanted to thank the United States of America for giving Ukraine the money that they had promised so long ago in the Budapest Memorandum. This money, this military aid given to Ukraine in this latest package is unbelievably important. For that, we have to say thank you. Now, my friends, fortunately, the small minority in the Senate who opposes Ukraine and who supports Russian propaganda did not win. However, we need to mention that more than half of the Republicans have voted against this package. It was a slim margin, and yet it shows that the Russian misinformation stands deep within the psyche of the American politician. We need to know this, because this reminds us of what happened in the past, of what happened in the beginning of World War II. As not only the far right that sympathized with Hitler, but also the far left that sympathized with the Soviet Union were promoting non-interventionism, and isolationism all over Europe, all over the free world. That's what they were saying. Now, the far left claims that they fought against the Nazis, but they forget that the Soviet Union was on the same side as the Nazis when the war began. They were trading with them, giving them their prime materials to keep the Nazi war machine moving forward. And they divided Poland in half in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Treaty. Half would go to Nazi Germany, half would go to the Soviet Union. That's what Stalin did. That's the deal Stalin had with Hitler. And yet we still have these especially gifted individuals who still claim, oh, Stalin was the man. Stalin fought against Nazis. Sure thing. And then we forget the fact that Stalin had deals with the Nazis and was helping the Nazis to the best of his ability. But let's not look only into the past. We should also look into the present, into what's going on now. And as we all know, not too long ago, Putin had his infamous interview, quote-unquote, with Tucker Carlson, in which Tucker Carlson proceeded to not ask a single relevant question. There was one that was a little bit on the tougher side, and Putin promptly omitted it. And Tucker never pursued it. You know, when Tucker asked Putin how he could enforce the opinion of a people which he does not control, the Ukrainian people. But there was a more important thing that Putin said, which is, although he blamed Ukraine of being supposedly a neo-Nazi regime, Putin has indeed shilled for Hitler in that interview. That's right. He said that World War II started when the Polish had overextended, they had overplayed their hand, and they had, I quote, provoked Hitler. They had provoked Germany. That's what Putin says. And that's the truly funny part, my friends. Truly, it's comedic. On one hand, Putin points fingers at Ukraine and shouts, Nazi! On the other hand, Putin literally shills for Hitler and his decisions in beginning World War II. That's the individual that we have to debunk, my friends. Only people who are either misinformed, uninformed, or simply disingenuous will ever shill for this individual. And that is why we need to get one thing very clear, my friends. Wars are not won with mean words and statements. Wars are won with weapons. That is why Ukraine needs those weapons to defend its existence, to defend itself against the Russian terrorist regime. And that, my friends, that is the solution to this war, the only solution to this war. Because arms keep peace. Arm Ukraine, as you promised.
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 Fight the jets for Ukraine.
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 Air defense 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 for Ukraine.
We can't forget to mention that the United Kingdom has also pledged another package of aid for Ukraine. For that, once again, my friends, we say thank you. Because that is unbelievably important for the West to stop dragging its feet and to finally give Ukraine what it needs. Not what it doesn't mind giving. Not what it's not missing. But what Ukraine truly needs to win. And not to survive, my friends, to win. Because victory in this situation is the only survival for Ukraine and long-term for the free world. Because if weakened, corrupt, a country-sized criminal syndicate like Russia is appeased, if we allow them to do what they want, if we can't even show them that international rules and laws are to be upheld, or else there will be severe consequences. If we can't even achieve that, if the free world can't even achieve that, then the international community is useless. I'm sorry, my friends. If a weak country like Russia, that considered itself a superpower, but in reality turned out to be a paper bear, if it can pull its weight around and not have any kind of consequences, then what can we speak about China? What can we say then? China is far more powerful, has a far greater future than Russia, far more money, more men, more military. If Russia is being appeased, then what's going to happen with China? Are we going to simply lay low and stand on our knees and pray so that they allow us the privilege of being their slaves? Is that the future we envision? Is that the future these Republicans who voted against the Ukraine aid bill envision? I hope not. I hope not, my friends. But the hard truth is that most likely most of these politicians, most of these Chamberlain politicians, most of these corrupt politicians who fill their pockets with rubles, they don't care. They might know, they might not, but the key point is they do not care. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe her name was, right? Moscow Marjorie, right? We all know Moscow Marjorie, who kept screaming and shouting about the special rules she needed for this package. Embarrassing. Truly embarrassing. The same individual who claimed she was against American intervention in Ukraine then said, oh, but if you want to vote for aid for Ukraine, you should go to Ukraine and participate directly in the war. You should enlist in the Ukrainian forces. Well, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? This individual who supposedly wants peace doesn't want to give Ukraine the weapons to defend itself, but it wants to send people there with no weapons. I mean, it's ingenious, truly. Yeah, just go there to the front, be sent as a neat wave. And we are not going to send you anything at all to support you in this endeavor. My friends, let's not be foolish. We need to see through these individuals at long last. All of these deviations into whataboutism, they're useless, they're meaningless. All these people are doing is pushing the Muscovite agenda. It's always been this way, in fact. They're filling up their pockets with rubles. And they're afraid that Russia might lose. Because, well, if they lose, the rubles they have in their pockets are going to be useless. They're not going to be of any use to them anymore. They can't buy a yacht if $1 is 1,000,000 rubles. What use will they give to their bribes? What use will Orban have for the bribes he got from Putin? Nothing. And Orban, keep in mind, this supposedly ultra-conservative politician who cares about Christian values, about Hungarian values, supposedly. And then he's caught in a pedophilia scandal, because of course, you know, my friends, it's as the saying goes, discretion is the better part of valor. The people who scream and shout how great and amazing they are, oftentimes are not so significant in the end. That's what we need to understand. People who saber rattle, like Putin is right now, it's because they're compensating for something. Putin knows he's in a weak position. Putin knows that if this continues, he's going to lose. If Ukraine gets the aid it needs, Russia will lose. Putin knows this. I mean, his Russia will lose. Long term, the Russian people themselves might be the victors of this, because they will be liberated. But the Russian people themselves need to start acting decisively. They need to start acting against Putin's terrorist regime. Because if it is the Ukrainians who liberate them, then that freedom will never truly belong to them. All that's going to happen is that they will wait for the next Tsar, for the next Khan, for the next Putin to take over and enslave them once again. Freedom is something that needs to be chosen. It's not something that can be enforced on people. People need to understand what it is. And unfortunately, many people in Russia don't. Even some people here don't. All over the world, there are still some people who don't understand the simple fact that if you use isolationist politics in a world where there are expansionistic regimes that want to enslave you, you are cruising for a bruising. You are setting yourself up for failure long term. Because eventually, my friends, eventually those people will come for you. I had a conversation with a lovely American girl who was a staunch Republican and a staunch isolationist. So I asked her one time, you truly believe that if the United States of America gives up all of its influence abroad, all of its investment in its military abroad, it just removes itself from the international scheme of things? I mean, sure, the United States can survive independently. Survive. It's not the same as living. But do you truly think that the United States of America, if they give up on all of that, do you truly think that they will be left alone by entities like China or Russia, for example? Do you truly think China will not simply move straight in and take over the influence that the United States is giving up? Do you truly not think that eventually when China has reached the borders of America, do you truly think that they will stop there? That they will not try to destabilize the states themselves? She was an honest girl. She said, no, I don't think so. Unfortunately, although she was honest, she still could not overcome her pride. The pride of somebody who is wrong and refuses to admit that he or she is wrong. To look for a better truth, more accurate truth, a more accurate representation of the real world, my friends. That is what she missed. And we are here to make sure that people do not miss that truth. World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up!